Jai Hare Okay, let's do the Mangala Charan together as well. Om
Brandasya Jnana Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Swapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yudhavadagamanam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrijatam Saganam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Saganam Shri Sadhanam Hare Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinobandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kantha Radha Kantha Namosute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sude Devi Pranamami Haripriya Manjakalpatarupeshwara Vasindhu Devacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Nice delayed response. So I actually very rarely give class at the yoga center, in the sense that there's not very many classes that I give. So those of you who are here and encouraging me in the class, thank you so much. It just helps when you have people actually in a class to listen to the class, otherwise it's really hard. And I'm a culprit because I have such a hectic schedule usually that I'm not giving so many classes, and very often I'm just, even if I am here, sometimes I have to work as well at the same time, which is not great, but that's what happens. But hopefully this year, if the devotees appreciate the talking, and I will do more classes this year, but let's see how it goes. Let's see how this one gets received, and then we'll see how it goes after that as well. So, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how many people have read the whole life of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? How many people know of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Some people know. How many people don't know of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? You don't know of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. How many of you have read Chaitanya Charitamrita? Nobody's read Charitamrita? You've read all of Chaitanya Charitamrita? All of Chaitanya? You just started. You're starting to read. Okay, very good. So, okay, well, this is a historical, and what I said is a traditional narrative of the life and teachings of Sri Chaitanya, Sri Krishna Chaitanya. And the reason why I put a historical narrative and a traditional narrative is because, firstly, I'm presenting this to you from the perspective of history, which usually when you do a presentation historically, there's no miracles involved. So that means, we just say, this is when somebody was born, this is where he was born, this is where he died, blah, 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 blah. But then what's the point doing a class with devotees when you don't talk about the glories of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his mystical divine incarnation? So this is why that you have to go to tradition. It's a different discipline. When you study something in history, there's no such thing as monkeys building a bridge to Lanka, is there? Right? You just have to say that's the discipline of history. But when it comes to the discipline of spirituality, many things can happen, because we know that outside of the physical dimension, on the spiritual level, so many things can happen. And especially since I have been experimenting with spirituality ever since I was a child, I have only come to learn that that is very true. Right? For example, you have history, you have physical dimension, so you have chemistry, biology, and physics, right? That studies the material dimension. But that doesn't study things like psychology. That's a different discipline. Studying of the mind, you have to go into a different discipline to understand that. It's a different subject matter. So you go to the next level, sociology, psychology. That's the study of the metaphysical, which is like the mind and all of those things. So it becomes from physical study to subtle study, right? So then that becomes even more and more subtler, and you have different type of subject matter, which is like philosophy and theosophical things, spirituality, and then eventually you come to spiritual itself, which is only studied by like religion and spirituality. So it's a different discipline is required to understand something in a different realm, isn't it? So you take a fish out of water and put it on land, give it a nice house, give it everything, it's not going to survive because it needs to be in its environment. Similarly, when we study the spiritual dimension, it has to be done within a discipline of spiritual study. It requires you to do something like that. It requires you to be doing regular meditation, regular reading, regular spiritual practice for you to be able to understand it. And the confirmation of that is given by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, that Shraddhavan labhate jnanam. That the knowledge of the absolute truth, the knowledge about spiritual things, cannot be understood by a material yardstick where you try to measure something or monitor it by any kind of physical science. For example, in chemistry and in physics, you can boil water at 100 degrees and say, okay, boiling point is this for water. That's your physical material evidence. But then if I say to you, if I met you in the street briefly today, and I said, okay, I had a conversation with somebody, there's no evidence of it recorded anywhere unless it is actually recorded somewhere physically. It's metaphysical now, it resides within yours and my memory now. So we're now in a different discipline altogether. So in order to understand something spiritual, you have to step into a different thing, in a different tradition, a different subject matter altogether. So in order to understand, Krishna, and in order to understand, all of the metaphysical and spiritual sciences, you have to enter into a different realm of study. This is why I've put historical and traditional narrative of the life and teachings of Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Okay, Now, I have quite a lot of slides that I want to go through. Those of you who have never heard of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this is your class, basically, so you know a little bit about him. Now, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a part of a greater, broader tradition of Vaishnavism. And there are four main schools. I'm not saying that these are the only schools of Vaishnavism. There are the four main schools of Vaishnavism. Why Vaishnavism? Vaishnavism means the worship of Lord Vishnu or Lord Krishna as the supreme. Vaishnavism is only one form of Hinduism within India. It is not the only Hinduism that is in India. There are many, many different types of Hinduism in India. For example, if you go to Gujarat, you get so many different types of Hinduism just within Gujarat on its own. Most of you are Gujaratis. Shaktism is a very, very big religion within Hinduism, where they believe that the goddess Devi, Durga, is the supreme goddess. She's the supreme. And then you have Shaivism, and you have who believe in Shiva as a supreme. Predominantly, though, the scriptures point to Vaishnavism, which is worshipping of Krishna or Lord Vishnu as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We base that evidence on the Bhagavad Gita itself, okay? Because Krishna says that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the universal form. He is Godhead completely. So in a broader context, we have an umbrella of Hinduism, and underneath that, there are many, many different types of what we call Hinduisms, right? For example, you have different sampradayas also, different traditions. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, broadly speaking, based his teachings in the context of these four major sampradayas of Vaishnavism. One is Sri Ramanuja Acharya. He was born in South India, in Tamil Nadu, and he lived in Karnataka also, and then came back to Tamil Nadu and established the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya. He didn't actually, the originator of Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya was not Ramanujacharya. He just re-established it. He was the Sanstapaka Acharya of the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, which means he refounded it, made it to be strong and spread it within South India. Sripad Madhvacharya was another Acharya that existed in Karnataka area. He was born in the area of Udupi in Karnataka. I've been to his birthplace only last in December. And Madhvacharya is always showing two fingers like this because he doesn't believe in this Advaita philosophy that everybody is one. Yeah, we're all one and everything is one. He believes that there's duality. There's God and then there's the Jiva. Right? There's two. And they're not exactly the same. They are separate. They are part of the same whole, but they are not the same. So you see that's why he has his two fingers like that. They all have a different philosophic, like they have a different stance on philosophy. Okay? Philosophy is different, and then the theology is different. Now, some people don't know what philosophy and theology difference is between these two things, but that's fine. We can talk about that another time. And then we have Nimbarkacharya. He has his own sampradaya, which is then called the Nimbarkis. Madhvacharya Sampradaya comes from the Brahma Mad, and they call the Madhva Sampradaya. Nimbarkacharya has his Sampradaya called the Nimbarkacharya Sampradaya. And Sri Vishnu Swami is also very popular. Many people don't really know, but he's actually one of the original founders of the Pushti Sampradaya, the Vaishnava Sampradaya that is very prominent in Gujarat. You have a lot of people who follow the Pushti. How many people Gujaratis here? Yeah, like almost almost the whole school is Gujarati, you know? Okay, so there are some of us who are not Gujaratis, okay? So, yeah. Some of us are not Gujarati, but you know. Anyway, Vishnu Swami is like the founder of this. But then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu founded really his own Sampradaya, and it's known as the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, and he is somehow connected to these Sampradayas that we saw earlier. The reason why I say somehow is because it's quite a complicated story, okay? We're not going to go into the whole how the lineage actually works and everything like that, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, being who he is, can start something new even if he wanted to, okay? And the thing is that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a part of, he was also known as Lord Gauranga because he has a golden complexion. and his limbs were like Gaura, right? Like good, like the color of golden, jaggery color, like golden color. So he's known as Gaura. He's also known as Gaura Hari because he is considered to be an incarnation of Lord Krishna. And he's also known as Nimai because he was born under a neem tree. We'll talk about that as well. His birth name was Vishwambar Mishra. And he was born in 1486. And that's when he was born in a Brahmin family. And he was basically living in West Bengal. So we'll show you some pictures of that. Next to him, he's in the middle on the other side. And then next to him in the darker color clothing is Lord Nityananda. Gadadhara is on the other side. And the one who's leaning away with his hands close to his heart with the shaved head is known as Srivas Thakur. And then the really older version on the older image on the extreme left of you guys is Advaita Acharya. So those are known as the Panchatattva. So this Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivas Adi. Srivas Adi means and Gaura, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Bhakta, all the devotees. Vrinda means a group of devotees. Vrinda also means Tulsi Vrindavan as well. So this is the Panchatattva Mahamantra. That's what we sing for them. This is that Panchatattva. We have them on the altar as well. And then we have the two main deities in the middle, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu, as Gaur Nitai. Nityananda becomes short as Nitai and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu becomes Gaura Hari, Gaura Sundar becomes Gaur. So that's why we have Gaur Nitai on the altar. And we worship on the altar like that. Because it's his tradition that we are following. No, so that's the tradition. Here's another picture of Gaur Nitai. On this side, some traditional Bengali painting. You've seen these ones growing up? Balaram?
Yeah.
Like this? In your home, did you have?
No, my home.
Not your home.
It is in temple.
In the temple you saw them, right? And then here you have Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the middle, dressed as Krishna. You can see he's wearing this crown. Next to him is Gadadhar, and he's holding a little triangle that's known as a tambula. Tambula is a palm leaf. And inside the palm leaf are all these spices and everything for freshening the breath. Because he's holding that because he comes in the mood of Srimati Radharani. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes as disguised as a devotee. These are basically devotees of Lord Radha and Krishna. But they're God in the form of devotees. Incarnation of God in the form of devotees. According to the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, this is the belief. Okay? Now you don't have to accept Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as God. That's fine. In fact, he comes as disguised as a devotee. So even if you just accept Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as a devotee, that's fine. Now, some of the acharyas make really bold statements about, everybody should accept and blah, blah, blah. But they say out of their spiritual, how do you say, we call it, in Krishna consciousness, we have this word we use, right? It's not, in outer context, it doesn't sound right, but it's a spiritual ecstasy. So out of its spiritual ecstasy, they say that, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality, everybody has to accept and things like that. But he does come in disguise as a devotee of himself, of Krishna. So even if you accept him as a great devotee and follow his path, that's also okay. That's also fine. You see? So but the most important thing is to understand what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission is. And then you will be able to appreciate him. And this is really why from a historical perspective we have to appreciate Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because he really saved a lot of, people from drowning in this material world and turning away from spirituality, turning away from Lord Krishna. But yes, in the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he appeared, is considered to be a combined avatara, an incarnation of Srimati Radharani and Lord Krishna in one form. And he displays this to eyewitnesses in his life also. So he also shows that he's the Supreme Lord, and they've written accounts of these things. This is known as Pratyaksha. Pratyaksha Pramana. Pramana means evidence. Pratyaksha Pramana means actual testimony or witness. You know, they have their witnesses. Okay, so this is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu according to the tradition. But then, like I said, the flip side is he does come disguised as a devotee. So if just general population doesn't necessarily invest their faith in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu like how Gaudiya Vaishnavas do, even if they accept him as a great devotee of the Lord, who done all of these amazing things that I'm going to tell you about, that is also one way of getting Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy anyway. Okay, so that's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So his early birth in life is in 1486, 1508, roughly speaking. So we're talking about the late 15th century coming into the 16th century. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is born in West Bengal, and here you see a Bengali image of women getting together in the house of Sachi Mata, who is the mother of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There she is, holding him as a little tiny baby, Nimai, because he's born under that neem tree there. And he is also, his father's name was Jagannath Mishra as well. Apparently, I think there is some things that I have read that they believe that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's family originated in Orissa originally and then moved to Bengal, and then that's where they were. But they were a Brahmin family born of the Vatsa Gotra, and so basically they come from the lineage of Jamadagni, and they were relatives of Lord Parashurama as well. So that is and here you can see the traditional Bengali thatched roofs. Okay, this is called Jod Bangla. So Bengal is known as Bengal because they have these bungalows, right? Little bungalows, isn't it? You are our Bengali expert here today. So they had this. Even if you look at the architecture of this architecture that you see of our temple here, can you see this shape here that we have? Can you see on the top here? We have also that shape. It was usually straw thatched roofing that was made in the bungalow style. That same style got incorporated into the architecture of Vrindavan as well. So sometimes when you go and see the samadhis of different acharyas in Vrindavan, you will see that in the Jod Bangla style. Okay, that is known as the Jod Bangla style. I studied it in archaeology when I was art and archaeology section of my master's degree as well. So it talks about the reasoning behind that. Here you see a very interesting map of ancient Bengal, 1050 AD. So this is way before Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's birth. Okay, and here you see Gaura. Gaura stretches out. You see, there's a river. That's the I think a branch of the Ganga there. That branches out there, and it meets into the sea, which is the Bay of Bengal. It's called Gaura. That's why the Vaishnavas who were born there, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was born there, started this Vaishnava movement, that's why they're called Gaudiyas. Because this area was called Gaura Desha. Here you can see Banga underneath, and eventually that became known as Bengal. So then you had Bengal, and you had West Bengal, and you have then later when the partition happened, which I think is 1946, India gained independence from the British, right? So then 1947, I think the day after, they established Bangladesh. Or under Pakistan and Bangladesh, or East Pakistan.
Bangladesh born in 1971.
East Pakistan. So Pakistan was the next day, right? And then later, Bangladesh decided to become separate as well. Okay, so that's the modern history. Sorry, I'm an ancient and medieval historian, so anything modern, you can don't ask me about it. I'm from the ancient and medieval period. Okay, so here you see Sri Navadip Dham, and it's then divided into 9 islands. Nava Dvipa means 9 islands in West Bengal. Okay, and so these 9 islands are all sacred to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He performs pastimes in different places there, and then him and all of his associates also are in this area as well. Right? Yeah, Nitin Bhai, you can fill us in. You were living in Mayapur for a little while.
Correct what you're saying.
Very good. Okay, 谢谢老师. Okay, so here is during Babur's invasion. Here you can see, 1525. You can see Bengal there, right? So the Delhi Sultanate was, had been ruling over Punjab all the way, or during that Indo-Gangetic plain all the way down. But you see that the Rajput kingdoms were ruling over the Sindh province, Rajasthan. Gujarat was also under the Rajput empire, I believe, at that time as well. This is why you have a lot of influence of Rajasthan as well in Gujarat. Yeah, you have that Rajasthani influences as well. So here you can see a lot of, just by looking at a couple of maps, you can see how politically the landscape can change over a period of time, but the regions remain more or less the same. Okay, so Punjab is still there, and Bengal is still there, and you can see your own states are still in place. Okay, they just changed a little bit. Naksha has changed a little bit, but it is there. Okay. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was born, of course, many people saw Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and saw the divine features of Lord Shri Krishna just in a golden form. So they immediately, when they saw Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they immediately thought of Lord Krishna. They saw that he had divine markings on his hands and on his feet. Astrologers had predicted Neelambara Chakravarti, the grandfather, I think it was the maternal grandfather of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, had the astrological chart made of, that's right, that is the picture, of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And it showed that he was the Supreme Personality. And when he was growing up, he performed many, many pastimes. For example, one time when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was a young boy and standing outside of his house, two dacoits came and picked up Chaitanya Mahaprabhu thinking, this young boy, he's very effulgent, he's very, golden, glowing, and he has all of these gold ornaments on his body. And he was they were thinking to themselves, well, if this has got a lot of gold here, and he's just a child and walking around on his own, his parents aren't here, let's get the loot, right? So they said, okay, what we'll do, we'll give him some sweets, and this is how baddies start, don't they? They like give you some sweets, and that's why your parents say to you, don't talk to strangers, right? But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was there. He was like, oh, sweets, lovely, how very nice, Bengali sandesh, shandesh.
Yeah.
Yes, Balaram?
Yes.
You've had sandesh?
Yes.
The best sandesh, you know how to make it?
No, I'm
You don't know? Okay, so anyway, that's a bit of a flop, isn't it? Okay, anyway, so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was taken by these dacoits, and so they gave him some sweets and they carried him on their shoulders, and they're running through the forest, and they're running, and they thought, right, finally we were. They put him down, and they say, right, we can take his jewelry off. But when they put him down and they look, they find that they're still outside his house, that they haven't left. So they pick him up again and they go, right, okay. They're blaming each other. You're so stupid. We just came around in a circle and came back. And they're like blaming each other. And they take Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again, saying, okay, give him some more sweets, keep him quiet. And they go running into the forest. This time they ran so far. And they ran so much that when they came down and they put him down, then they realized that they were actually inside the house of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu still. So like that, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was performing pastimes. In the end, they did it 3-4 times. They realized that actually this kid is not ordinary. We're going to go. See you later. Here's the rest of the sweets, kids. Say nothing. Don't tell your parents. And he runs off, and they go off into the forest. So like this, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu eats prasadam, cook a few times. These stories are all found of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's younger pastimes are found in a book called the Chaitanya Bhagavat. Okay, so if you have a chance to read Chaitanya Bhagavat, after you've read Chaitanya Charitamrita, perhaps after you've read the Srimad Bhagavatam, and after you've done all that reading, you'll have opportunity to read these pastimes. And even when he was younger, he performed pastimes of eating the sweets that were cooked by these young girls who were doing Gauri Puja. They were worshipping Lord Shiva and they were worshipping Parvati so that they can get a beautiful husband, right? Nice husband, right? Somebody who knows how to make sandesh, maybe. And so he was taking the sweets and everything as well. And they said, you're stealing our sweets and things, you're stealing our food. Why do you do this, Nimai? Why do you always taunt us? He goes, because, the person who you're worshipping is actually worshipping me. And then he's just taking the sweets. So he's performing these pastimes, and winning the hearts of all the residents of Lavadweep, of Bengal. And so then if you ever go to Mayapur, which is a place which is beautiful temple which is there, the ISKCON temple is there, you can see this big planetarium there. Not far from there you can travel and you will come to the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and there's like a descendant tree of that original tree that was there. Okay, so it's a long story about how they mapped out the cartography, how cartographers and people researched and looked at the original places of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I do not know why this random slide is there, please ignore it. But then when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu grows up, his father passes away, Jagannath Mishra passes away, so he travels to Gaya, which is, this temple is known as the Vishnupad temple in Gaya. And here you can see that this is the Ganga river that flows on the banks there. And here he meets his guru for the first time. He meets with a very, very illustrious, very pure devotee, and he's very intrigued. Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he's younger, he became a very big Pandit. And Navadvip was actually a place of learning. It was like the place where Brahmins would go there and they would learn this philosophy called Nyaya philosophy. Nyaya is actually one of the Saddarshanas. Okay, it's one of the 6 systems of philosophy that is there. It's a part of, like Nyaya, Mimamsa. Some of you might be familiar with these type of things if you studied philosophy. Okay, Yoga is one of them, Vedanta is one of them, like that. So there are 6 systems of philosophy, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was a scholar of Sanskrit and teacher in Nyaya. So by the time he was a young teenager, he was already teaching this. He was already a teacher of these type of things. He had his own students as well. He also defeats a big scholar known as Keshava Kashmiri. We don't know if it's historically the same Keshava Kashmiri. It might be the same name as somebody else or the one who authored the book. Anyway, you guys might know this book. Anyway, so he's a very famous scholar, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu defeats him because he was so intellectually powerful, basically, in his mind. And after meeting, and here is a picture of the inside of the temple, of the Vishnupad temple. If you ever have an opportunity to go to Gaya, Manomohini, you've been to Gaya?
Yeah.
You've been to this temple?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so. Okay, so here you got this temple of Lord Vishnu, and then when they do an abhishek, which means they bathe the feet of bathe the deity in the temple, in this case, they're bathing a footprint of Lord Vishnu on a rock, and when you see closely, you can see the actual footprint of Lord Vishnu on the rock there. It's quite clear, isn't it? Very clear. You can see where they've bathed with milk. You can see the feet, the heel, and the sole of the Lord there. Looks like it's his right foot. Okay? So people go and do Shraddha there. You know, how many of you do Shraddha for your family members? Yeah? So when your parents pass away, or when any family members pass away, you invite Brahmanas to do Shraddha, which means you do something in honor for them. Now, in order to be able to give blessings to your ancestors, you have to worship God. You have to worship Krishna, you have to worship Vishnu. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu goes there to do Shraddha for his father, and also meets with Ishwara Puri, his spiritual master, which is here. You can see a very old picture of Ishwara Puri. I think since this deity has been replaced, because it's probably made from clay, which is very common for Bengali murtis to be made from clay. After he comes back, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu becomes a very transformed man, and he starts performing what we call the Sankirtan movement, which is singing and dancing, what we call the Nama Sankirtana, which is teaching people about the congregational chanting of the holy name. This is why we are all chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra all the time. You know, you see us always Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Why don't you sing something else? They always say to me, why don't you sing something else? Well, because this is called Mahamantra. When you chant these holy names, it purifies you in a rapid way. It's the most important mantra in the Kali Yuga, in this age. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, along with his associates, said, okay, let's go and start distributing the holy name. But he was revolutionary on many different ways. Why? Because one, to be a Brahmin, right, is hard work. Okay? It really is so much hard work. Even you can't eat straight away. You offer food and everything like that, and you think, and you can't, okay, so you're out of Vindija, and then you just think you can eat. No, not Brahmins, so you have to do the whole, put water around it, do all these rituals and more rituals, and it's just a pain. Really, it's a pain. So, if you're a Brahmin, you can do all of these things. If you're not Brahmin, then you're not going to do it, right? How are people going to make spiritual progress? if they don't have, these things. And so in the Shastra, there's mentioned that the most highest meditation that anybody can do is the holy chanting of the holy names of Krishna. And it's supposed to be accessible for everybody. Now, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't start the bhakti movement, or he didn't make up the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. It comes from the scriptures. The Kali Santarana Upanishad, the Kurma Purana, Vayu Purana, and Agni Purana also mention the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Some of them in parts, some of them whole mantra. Some parts just give a part of the mantra, and Kali Santarana Upanishad gives the whole mantra. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to give the Hare Krishna Mahamantra to the whole universe because the age of Kali was progressing, the Brahmins were becoming corrupted, right? They were not really following the Shastra, they were just, doing rituals, becoming greedy, doing many, many things like that. In the Kali Yuga, that's what's going to happen. People become more and more degraded. And so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made it a mission of his to spread the bhakti movement. And more specifically, he came to give Krishna prema. He's Namo Mahavadanyaya, Krishna prema pradayate, Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya, Namne Gaura Trishe Namaha. So he came to give the prema of Krishna. And what type of prema? Later we will discuss that. But when he was doing the chanting of the holy name, his area that he was preaching and doing kirtan in was ruled by Muslims at that time. And they decided that they wanted to put an end to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's kind of, music and nocturnal kirtan. They would be doing kirtan all night and all of these kind of things, that they were making complaints about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And particularly it was threatening to them because many Muslims were joining also, right? They were also becoming attracted to Lord Krishna and Lord Krishna's holy names, and they were chanting of the holy names. So somebody came and they broke a mridanga. Mridangas are made from clay. And they took a kol banga, right? In Bengali they say kol banga means to break the the kol. Actually we call it mridanga in Sanskrit, but in Bengali they call it a kol, right? Yeah. So they broke the kol and said, from now on, if anybody chants the holy name, you will be punished. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gathered all his people together. They got the wampas. They got the mridangas and everything and big torches, and they went to his house and they were chanting really, really loudly in protest. And eventually they sat down with John Qazi and had a full philosophical discussion on the Quran. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu revealed that he knew everything about the Quran. And he actually told them and gave them the whole philosophical conclusion. And the Chand Qazi actually became a devotee of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So eventually this is how he was doing it. But not only was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, liberating people from, these type of things, but he was breaking barriers of the caste system as well, because there's this whole idea, that some people have. There's some people who believe in what we call an evolving system where anybody can become a Brahmana through training, can become a Kshatriya, whatever they want to be, Vaishya, Shudra, whatever their nature is, they become that. That's known as Devi Varnashrama Dharma, according to Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And then there's this Asuric one, which is demonic Varnashrama, which means nobody can move. You have to be born this and you have to stay this. And that actually was what not Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in favor for these type of things. He didn't want this to be an impediment to people's devotion to God, and said, well, we don't need to kind of focus on this type of thing. If everybody chants the holy name of the Lord, everybody has access directly to God through the Nama Sankirtana. Okay? So he was a social reformer, and he had a civil disobedience movement against the Muslim oppression. So I already like him. Yeah? He's already a troublemaker. So I love it. Right? He's already one of, many things. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda Prabhu also are very merciful to criminals as well. And in Kali Yuga, it's demonstrated through, again, two corrupt Brahmins who became Jagai and Madai. We hear the story of Jagai and Madai. And they were drinking, they were killing, they were plundering, they were looting. There was no crime that they didn't already do, basically. They were that bad in their thing. But one day, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu and Haridas Thakur were going out preaching, telling people to chant the holy name. And one of these, I think it was Madhai, picked up a pot, throws this at Nityananda Prabhu, it strikes him on the head, he starts bleeding. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu hears this, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu becomes very angry, very furious. Because he's Vishnu, he can invoke his divine chakra. He was going to kill Jagai and Madhai. Jagai and Madhai was spared because Lord Nityananda Prabhu said, you have to be merciful because you have come in the Kali Yuga, in this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, to give kindness to people. This is known as Karuna, old Hariya. Yeah? Whereas Vrindavan is a place known as Madhurya, which means loving pastimes happen. If you go to Mayapur, merciful pastimes happen. It's also an expression of love. Mercy is also an expression of love. They gave kindness to Jagai and Madhai, and they eventually also gave up their sinful ways and became devotees of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also, and Lord Nityananda Prabhu. So, after some time, at the age of 22, after he's been to Gaya, met his guru, starts preaching, he was 22, 23, and by 24 years old, how many people are 24? Anybody 24? Not you, Manish. Yeah, so by the age of 24, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu decided that he wanted his mission to become a little bit bigger than what he had established. And he thought, well, the only way I can sort of influence the world is if I come into a position where people respect me a little bit more than in the life that I'm living right now as a grihastha. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was married twice. His first wife died from a snake bite. Okay, there's Lakshmi Priya and Vishnu Priya. And then his second wife, he left, and when he left, he gave her this deity. This is known as Dameshwara, and it was worshipped by his wife, Vishnu Priya. And she stayed with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mother, Sachi Devi, and they lived in Bengal. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu decided that he would take sannyas. So he shaves his head, and he then, upon the request of his mother, decides to go and live in Jagannath Puri, which is nearby. It's not too far. Did you go to Jagannath Puri? Yeah, you went to Jagannath Puri. You been to Puri? Okay, very nice. Puri? Anybody been to Jagannath Puri? Very good. Okay. So there, as you can see, they have very abstract form of Lord Chaitanya, of Lord Krishna, his brother and his sister. You can see on the altar Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is worshipping. These are made from wood. It's a different story altogether. We have no time to go over it now. But here are some black and white pictures of Jagannath Puri. And I love black and white pictures because it makes me feel like I'm going back into time and I can kind of come close to that time when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was really there. So I tried to include as many black and white photos in this presentation. So we're going to move quite quickly now. So he moved to Jagannath Puri, and here you can see another view of Jagannath Puri. And they have an annual Rath Yatra festival where they have 3 carts which are made from scratch every year. And the deity of Lord Jagannath, Lord Balabhadra, Lord Baladev, Balaram, and Subhadra are put on the chariot and they're pulled by hundreds of people. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arrives in Jagannath Puri, he meets with, people hear about him that, he's, sometimes this mad sannyasi is sometimes chanting and singing and dancing, which was very unusual for somebody who was a very high level senior monk to be dancing and singing all night and feasting and all of that kind of stuff on prasad. He thought, well, this is a very strange type of renunciation. So he tried to talk sense into Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's house is here, so I have an image of the inside of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's ancient, medieval house. And he speaks to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 3 or 4 days straight, telling him, look, you should understand the Vedas and the Shastras. You're already born into it looks like you're a bit misguided here. You're doing all these things. Maybe you should do all of these things. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was silent, listening to him for days, just listening to him. And then after he spoke to Lord Chaitanya, he asked Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said, well, do you understand, what I told you? Everything I've been teaching you for these days. He goes, well, you know, actually, I understand everything you're talking about, but I think you've misunderstood. And you have not really captured the meaning. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains the real meaning of everything that he was explaining. And he explained it so perfectly that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who was a really big Pandit, very knowledgeable, right? Now you see, Jagannath Puri also has a Shankaracharya Math there as well, so they believe in this Advaita philosophy and they're really like into it, you know? And he completely defeated Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And he was so upset, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, that he went to his room and he didn't leave for days. He didn't eat, didn't want to do anything because he felt so humiliated by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But then eventually, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared to him and he saw this form of Lord Chaitanya, which you can see is in his room as well, which is known as Sri Sadbhuj, six-armed form. In one hand, you can see the bow and the arrow of Lord Ramachandra. And in the other arms, you can see a flute of Lord Krishna. And then in the middle, you can see a staff and a water pot of a sannyasi, of a danda of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And this is known as the Sri Sadbhuj. And then this form he revealed to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, at that time, he composed these prayers, which you can read. I can't remember the name of them. Maybe it's called Sri Chaitanya Ashtaka or something. Some prayers that he wrote, he actually composed them. And he became a follower of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also. In Jagannath Puri, you see the person who's hanging the clothes to dry with the beard? That is Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur was a Muslim by birth, follower of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was so inspired by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings that he would chant the holy names for hundreds and thousands of mantras, japa, every single day. He chanted for something like 22 hours a day. And that's a whole different pastime, so there's another story. But at the bottom there, you can see, well, the picture next to it, you can see that when Haridas Thakur died, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally buried him. And the tree that you see there in the background is known as the Siddha Bakul tree. There's a tree called the Bakul tree, which was used by Lord Jagannath to brush his teeth. But Lord Jagannath didn't want to use that, so he threw it out of the temple. It landed in this place, and it became this Bakul tree. It's called the Siddha Bakul tree, and Haridas Thakur chanted under that tree. Next to it, right at the bottom there, you see a picture of Haridas Thakur at the back, the same one with the beard hanging his clothes up. And inside the bead bag are the original Japamala of Haridas Thakur. And that's where he was buried. And you can go, when you go to Jagannath Puri, you can go and see the place where Haridas Thakur was buried. Okay, so that's another place there. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu moved into, not far from the temple, there is a mutt that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu moved in. A mutt is basically a place where monks and other people, like, religious people stay. And here you can see he moved into a very small room, which is called Gambhir. Gambhir means a place which is very, very, Gambhir, the English equivalent word is grave. Serious, very serious. He performed very, very serious meditation inside this room. And you can see the two wooden sandals, and next to it is a blanket and a water pot, which is kept inside this glass casing that used to belong to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Next to it is not a very good painting, I admit, but it is actually a painting that was commissioned by, of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that was actually commissioned by the king of Maharaj Prataparudra of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he used to be in Gambhira. So Maharaj Prataparudra, who's the king of Puri, he somehow came in association of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You will read it, how it happened. One Rath Yatra, they met, and slowly, the king became very, very impressed and followed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as well. And he had this painting done for his personal puja in his palace. And then here you can see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sitting in divine trance inside Gambhira. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of course, spent a lot of time at Rath Yatra singing and dancing and worshipping the form of Lord Jagannath, Baladev and Subhadra. And then miracles, other further miracles of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are that one time he went to this place called Alarnath. Now Alarnath is a Bengali adulteration of the word Alwarnath. The Alwar is a Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya saints that worship Lord Vishnu. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came here to have darshan of this deity, his body became so hot that you can see that the stone around his body melted because he had fainted basically, and then the stone melted around his body. Another time Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was seen to push the whole cart. When it came to a full standstill, he was able to push an entire cart, which is the size of like a big mass, it's like the size of a state building. He pushed it with his head. He was so powerful. Yeah, these are stories that come from the tradition of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then, sometime later, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also performs a South Indian tour. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu leaves to go to, from Jagannath Puri, he goes to Kanchipuram. Now, I personally took a couple of devotees myself to some of that South Indian tour and showed them places where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went. I can't remember what year it was, but it was quite a long time ago, maybe 20-something years ago. And then he went to, from Kanchipuram, he stayed in Sri Rangam and stayed for 4 months during the rainy season of Chaturmasya. There he met with Gopal Bhatta Goswami, one of his followers, and he also carved his own Jagannath deities. Those deities are still there, you can go and visit those deities. And he stayed there and worshipped Lord Krishna for 4 months. Because when it's rainy season, sannyasis or yetis, they're not supposed to travel. You're supposed to stay in one place. Because they're not supposed to create harm to animals like insects and things that come out. Worms come out and things when it's raining. So they're supposed to stay in one place. So sannyasis don't travel during that time period. Then he goes to Rameshwaram, which is right at the bottom, where Kanyakumari is. You can see the route that he took. And he travels all the way up and goes to Trivandrum, Kochi, and then up to Udupi, where he sees Lord Krishna temple and Krishna Mat, Gaura, and then further up. Now he actually goes to Pandharpur, but theoretically speaking, he returns back to Puri from there. This particular map is of a Padayatra, which comes from ISKCON's Padayatra, who went further to Bombay, Nasik, Ahmedabad, and Dwarka. So they had just gone to finish at Dwarka. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I believe, I'm not 100% sure, so please don't quote me on it. He went to Pandharpur, which is in Maharashtra, and he sees this very famous deity of Lord Panduranga. Is a deity of Lord Krishna who stands with his hands on his waist like this. If you ever see a picture, you will see an image. I've been to this temple, and even there is a huge Kirtan movement that happens, but they don't chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. They take the same syllables, Ram, Krishna, Hari, and they do Jai Jai Rama, Rama, Krishna, Hari. They chant like this. Rama, Krishna, Hari, Rama, Krishna, Hari, Rama, Krishna, Hari. So they chant the same Hare, Krishna, and Rama. They chant, yeah. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then goes back to Puri, goes to Rath Yatra, and then he tries to leave again, but his followers are so attached to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that they don't want him to leave. They're like, you must stay here with us. And several times he tries to leave, but he can't leave. But then eventually he does and makes his way back to Bengal, and then goes to Prayag. And there, I believe at that time he meets with Vallabhacharya as well from the Pushti Mark, right? As if you know who Vallabhacharya is, he meets with Vallabhacharya. And even Vallabhacharya accepts Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Krishna, because Vallabhacharya's wife was going to offer prasad, and she was about to take it into the mandir to go and offer it to Krishna. Before she would feed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Vallabhacharya says, where are you going? She goes, I'm going to go and offer this prasad. He says, you don't need to go and offer the prasad in the temple. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is God himself. Just bring the plate and just offer to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu directly. This is what the belief was by Gaudiya. This is the stories that are told in the Gaudiya literatures. So he goes to Prayag, and then he finally arrives in Vrindavan. Now Vrindavan is so important because that's where Lord Krishna's pastimes take place. And from his birth, he's never been to Vrindavan since he's appeared in the earth. And he finally, in 1513 to 1515, does this Vrindavan journey. And when he's in Vrindavan, he actually rediscovers many lost places in Vrindavan. And here you can see there is a Govardhan hill there, you can see. This is the most sacred place for Gaudiya Vaishnavas in the entire universe. It is called Radha Kund. And we know this is the most sacred place because one of the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu writes inside his book, Upadeshamrita, that Sri Radha Kund is considered to be the most sacred place for us. This Kund every so often gets emptied, and you can see that there are two sessions here, one that happened in my lifetime. You can see they excavated the Kund maybe in the 19th century sometime, 20th century, and then you can see this small Kund here was actually created by Srimati Radharani with her bangles. There's a story about how Krishna killed Arishtasura and the whole story of how that pastime happened on Bhaval-ashtami. And then next to it you can see another one, and then they refill it again and it becomes this beautiful lake known as Radha Kund. Next to it is known as Shama Kund. And that Shama Kund and Radha Kund are at Govardhan. Govardhan is the hill, and then the two is supposed to be, Govardhan is supposed to be like in the shape of a peacock. And the two eyes of Govardhan hill is like this Radha Kund and Sham Kund. The two eyes of the peacock is supposed to be there. It's a very sacred place. People go and do a lot of meditation bathed in this lake also. The Chaitanya Charitamrita, one of the biographies of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, talks about how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to a cave at Nandagram and saw the deity of Lord Krishna in a cave. He also saw Govardhan Hill, and there he absorbs deeply in the worship of Radha and Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. So it's a very, very deep emotional connection. He sees Govardhan Hill, and wherever he goes, he sees Radha and Krishna's pastimes taking place in the flowers, amongst the trees, and this place becomes very sacred. So much so that when he returns, he instructs his disciples, known as the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, who he meets at different places in different ways. You can learn the story about how he does that. Here you can see the very first image is of Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, then is Gopal Bhatta Goswami, and then in the middle you see two images of Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Sanatan Goswami. Our spiritual lineage comes from Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswamis. Next to it is Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, sorry. That's Jiva Goswami, sorry, the very first one's Jiva Goswami, Gopal Bhatta Goswami, Rupa and Sanatan, Raghunath Das Goswami, and Raghunath Bhatta Goswami and Raghunath Das Goswami. And the common picture that we understand these 6 Goswamis is the one at the below here, which you will only know this picture is because that's the one I happened to print and put here for everybody to see at one time. Okay, so you see this picture of the 6 Goswamis, and they were the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's why we sing actually Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale, which means the heart of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam, all of his ideas that he had, Sthapitam, which means he established it, Yena Bhutale, on this earth. Bhutale means on the Bhu, on Bhu Devi, on this earth. Swayam Rupa Kadameham Dadati Swapandantikam. So this is why when we sing that mantra in the Mangalacharan, we actually sing that. He knew the heart of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And if you know the heart of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and what you want to establish, that was good. So they established many beautiful temples in Vrindavan. But we also recognize that Krishna is worshipped in the Gopi Bhava, right? In the worship of how the gopis worshipped Krishna is how we worship in our line. Some sampradayas worship Krishna like a baby. Some people worship in a different way. In our sampradaya, the most important thing is we worship Krishna in the bhava of a gopi. That doesn't mean you become a gopi, all right? Do not try to imitate. The idea is we become a dasi. So underneath the gopis, these are called the manjaris. And these 6 Goswamis were also manjaris in the spiritual world. They came as followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but they are manjaris in the spiritual sky. And in order for you to be able to enter into Vrindavan's Leela, serving in that very confidential way, means you should have a guru. It means you should also have some diksha, initiation into this practice. You should be chanting Japa Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, reading the Shastra, because only you will have to build your knowledge to be able to get to that level of bhakti. So that's very important. Sorry, that's my my phone. Okay, so the six Goswamis of Vrindavan also established. They also established many temples under the direction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as well. And these black and white pictures are some of the temples that were established by. These are some of the temples that were established by. Sorry. Okay, my apologies. That doesn't normally happen. I don't normally give class, you see. So here you can see that this temple here is Govinda Dev Ji's temple, my favorite deity, by the way, if you didn't know already. Govinda Dev Ji's temple. And then next to it, this is known as Kali Daha in Vrindavan, where Krishna actually killed the Kaliya Naga and battled with that demon here on the banks of the Yamuna River. And so, again, I told you I like black and white pictures and history, so I wanted to show you some of the. Is this class interesting for you guys?
Yes.
Yeah? Shall I carry on?
Yes.
Okay, I was just checking because I thought, okay, let's see. Here you can see that in Ramkeli, Malda, you can see that here again the footprints of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So what did the six Goswamis do? The six Goswamis wrote literature. They wrote information about how to get Krishna Bhakti, right? They taught us how to do that, how to do those meditations, and how to know about who you are, what you are, and how to go back to that secret of what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was giving. He didn't do in his lifetime. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu died at the age of 48. Okay? So he only met his guru at the age of 22. By the time he was 48, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was gone. So who did that work? It was the six Goswamis of Vrindavan who did that work. The six Goswamis of Vrindavan gave us all the knowledge about who is, how to go to Vrindavan. Vrindavan was nearly lost. And actually all the Vaishnava Sampradayas, they knew Vrindavan. There was one or two temples and everything, but mostly everything had become lost. And Vrindavan is only Vrindavan today because of the six Goswamis of Vrindavan. You see? And even this Kanthi Mala that we are wearing, this one, nowadays you see everybody wearing it. Because that was the Jinna of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Gaudiya Vaishnavas used to wear that. No other Sampradayas didn't wear this. They wore a long mala. Long mala is known as a hara. Hara has to be taken off when you go to the bathroom. Kanthi Mala is right next to your neck. So because it's in the head region, it doesn't become spoiled, right? It doesn't become, you keep it. Those people who wear tulsi always are in Vrindavan. When you're in Vrindavan, and you die in Vrindavan, or you die at the lotus feet of tulsi, you don't go to hellish planets. That's why the Gaudiya Vaishnavas always wear these tulsi beads around their neck. Right? Always wearing tulsi. So, this is the Mahima, and you can see these are the six Goswamis of Vrindavan. And another thing that I wanted to share with you guys, so that you don't become like, yes, we follow, we're loyal to our lineage, but we should also respect other lineages as well. And here's a quote by Srila Prabhupada in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Anyone want to read it? Give me a break. Somebody? Not all at once.
You can read it?
Yeah, go for it.
Anyone who is a bona fide preacher of the cult of Sri Chaitanya
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Must be respectful to the real devotees of Lord Chaitanya. Sorry. Yeah, one should not be envious, considering one preacher to be very great and another to be very lowly. Lowly?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, this is a material distinction and has no place on the platform of spiritual activities. I'm not going to try that one.
Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami.
Yeah, therefore offers equal respect to all the preachers of the cult of Sri
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
who are compared to the branches of the tree. ISKCON is one of these branches and it should therefore be respected by all sincere devotees of Lord
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Okay? So we are one branch of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's tree. We are one branch. There are many branches. We are one branch of that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's tree. Now, and also, what is Prabhupada saying? No, don't disrespect anybody. If you are following something, that's very good. You should be respectful to your own, whatever you are following. But that means there are other sampradayas we don't follow, right? There are many things that we don't follow about what other sampradayas are following. And there may be many things that are wrong that don't actually exist, they came about later. But here we are, we've got a message by Srila Prabhupada that we should be not consider that if somebody is teaching, if somebody is lowly, somebody is high, you should listen and try to understand and try to be like a honeybee. Honeybee always goes to see the flowers and takes nectar, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to be like a fly. Where do flies go? Bad places. You don't want to talk about that. You don't want to go and sit with them, especially those funky green ones that fly around everywhere. Right. So here is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Panchatattva. You can see the 6 Goswamis. And these are known as the 64 Mahants. And actually there's a temple, there's a Samadhi place. Samadhi means burial place where they're buried. We don't call them a burial ground. They don't get ordinary burial. Because in our culture, we actually burn bodies. But when somebody is very spiritually advanced, their body is considered to be sacred. It's put into Samadhi in the ground and is considered to be a holy place. So there's a place in Vrindavan known as the 64 Mahant Samadhi place, which you can go to visit if you ever go to Vrindavan. And if possible, if you're there, because people are going to Vrindavan and trashing it, maybe you can try to help clean up or something and do some service there as well when you're there. So then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returns to Jagannath Puri. But this time when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returns to Jagannath Puri, he enters into deeper and deeper meditations upon the divine pastimes of Radha and Krishna. His pastimes that he is meditating upon, they're so deep that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu experiences some symptoms in his body that are not normal. We should also not try to imitate this, right? Because this is God turned to his pastimes. But part of those was fainting, trembling, crying, because he was experiencing that very high Mahabhava, right? Very, very high Prema Bhakti of Radha and Krishna, where even a moments of separation or feeling like they were separate, they wouldn't be able to do that. No, this is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's class now.
Okay.
No, 10. Okay, so all right, so then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu enters into all of these very deep pastimes, and eventually what happens is that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Gambhira, when he's in his he would have these very divine experiences where he would see. Did I have that picture? Oh, there was a really nice picture that I wanted to show you, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is approaching this tree, and under this tree there's Krishna. Have you seen that picture? It's a really nice picture. One day maybe you can see that. But he gets so absorbed into the divine pastimes of Radha and Krishna, so much so that one day Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu leaves in the night. He leaves his home and he's seen running towards the temple. And miraculously, they see Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu running in 3 different directions. Some people saw him running towards the ocean. Some people saw him running to Tota Gopinath temple. And some of them saw him running to the Jagannath temple. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then eventually, this is the Tota Gopinath temple, enters into the temple, the curtain closes behind, and then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu disappears from the material vision of human beings for all of, whatever we know of. We don't see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again. So he doesn't die, he disappears into the deity of Lord Krishna. And this is how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually ends his material pastimes in the material world. And his followers similarly leave in very similar ways as well, because they are when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is now not there, they are left in so much separation from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that eventually, slowly, they also disappear from this material world. But the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, they continue the work of writing many books on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and therefore we have information about them. So hagiography is basically a spiritual biography of somebody. It's not just a biography. A biography is for an ordinary person. An autobiography, those of you who are learning English from me, right, is your self-written biography, But a hagiography comes from the word hagios, which actually comes from this similar word. It's used in academic writing, that the hagiography is like a hajj basically, right? It's about spiritual topics. A hagiography is a spiritual documentary about somebody that's going to contain miracles and things like that of their life. The writing about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is also known as a hagiography. Okay? There are several books written about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is the handwritten Chaitanya Bhagavata manuscript of Vrindavan Das Thakur. You can see that on your left. Yeah, on your left. And then there's a handwritten manuscript of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, which is known as Chaitanya Charitamrita. Chaitanya Charitamrita was the last documented hagiography of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, written in Bengali, and he took it from several sources. Here's a picture of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, the author of Lord Chaitanya, Chaitanya Charitamrita. Charitra means character, Amrita means nectar, right? It's Charitamrita. The words, there's a sandhi in the word, it's a Sanskrit word. When you put two A's together, the R becomes joined. So it's Charitra and Amrita just becomes Charitamrita. There'll be a long A. I haven't got the Sanskrit diacritics on here, so forgive that. You know, you were reading Chaitanya, it's hard to read. And that CA it's a particular type of way of reading Sanskrit, is pronounced Ch. Right? So if you read a CA in Sanskrit written inside some of the books in English transliteration, the pronunciation is Ch. It has its own kind of way of reading, basically. We'll talk about it another time. In English, one of the first presentations of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life, and I'm very glad to say that I have seen this physical copy that belonged to Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Okay, his name is Kedarnath Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He was a magistrate during the British time, in the Victorian times in India. And he is one of our gurus on the altar here, in the lineage. He's known as Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And so here he's signed it himself. This was a photograph. I took a photograph of this. This is my photograph that I took of this book. And it's found in the Royal Asiatic Society in London. There is one Royal Asiatic Society in Calcutta also. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was a member of the Royal Asiatic Society in Calcutta and was a member of the board. When he had finished writing this book, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his life and precepts, he signed the copy here himself. He put a photograph of himself inside the book, which you can see this sepia picture pasted inside the book, signed it and posted it to London before Srila Prabhupada even came to the West. And so this was the first time we hear of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the West. This same book, I went to go and look for it in the Asiatic Society because I had student pass, so I was able to go in. And I said, look, I'm a researcher, this is all my documents and everything like that. They said, yeah, sure, come in, you can show. So they pulled the book out, and I said, tell me what you know about Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And they pulled out the book by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who, is one of our Param Gurus in the ISKCON lineage, in the Gaudiya Vaishnava lineage. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur also, there was also a document inside the Royal Asiatic Society that had his resignation letter when he resigned from it. And I read the resignation letter, and when I read the life of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, it was 4 years before he passed away. Because after that, if you read the thing, he stops writing and goes into deeper and deeper meditation, and then just leaves the material world. And it was 4 years after that, when he resigned from the Royal Asiatic Society, he returns back to Krishna in the spiritual world. And then after that was Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Srila Prabhupada, and then so on and so forth. Then your Guru Maharajas, and then here we are, moving this forward. Our own Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, this is a picture of Srila Prabhupada that was taken before he travelled to the West. I love this picture because he's wearing those old Victorian round glasses, right? When I used to wear glasses, I did have a pair at one time. I absolutely love this picture. And he also translated the biography of Chaitanya, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the hagiography of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami called Chaitanya Charitamrita, into several volumes, which we have over there, which if you want a copy of, you can ask Ronnie, Bhakta Ronnie here, he has this book and you can buy the whole thing. Inside it, really interesting, when I was younger, I used to love looking at the pictures inside it because they've got the old pictures of all the old places of where things had happened. And me being a medieval historian likes to see old anything, right? So I love seeing all of those things inside the Chaitanya Charitamrita. However, other books that were written by Vrindavan Das Thakur is the Chaitanya Bhagavata. Then we come to know that there was another book which is known as Sri Chaitanya Mangala, which in Bengali is called Sri Chaitanya Mongol, right? And this was written by Lochen Das Thakur. The Chaitanya Bhagavat has more of the earlier pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, like his childhood pastimes and things. Krishnadas Kaviraj doesn't really include that inside his Chaitanya Charitamrita, but he used these two versions, including an extra book which is called Sri Chaitanya Charita Mahakavya. It's written by Murari Gupta. Here you can see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the middle, that picture of him going into a very deep trance, very deep meditation, and his disciple and his followers are holding him, Nityananda Prabhu and Advaita Prabhu are holding him in the middle. It's a very high, very esoteric topic. And that final book, I have copies of all of these, the Chaitanya Charita Mahakavya, is actually handwritten notes by somebody, a diary of somebody who was traveling with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There's a handwritten notes. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did this, then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did this, and then this happened, and this happened. So if you ever want to read it, you can read it. It follows the path of when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu goes to South India. I mean, I only gave you small information, right, today, a little bit about, there's so many pictures of the South Indian trip that wasn't included in this. But that's also a book. But Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he took all these three and then put them together in this multi-volume book here as well. And so like this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu can be known by you and anyone who wants to know about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, if you so wish. So we're going to do Nrsimhadev first. Anybody have any questions? It's quite a long class, but I appreciate there's a lot to get through. Yeah?
What was Mahaprabhu's guru's name?
Ishvara Puri. And he was a disciple of Madhavendra Puri. Okay, Ishvara Puri, and then there was Madhavendra Puri. So do you know Chaitanya Mahaprabhu now? Those of you who didn't know, now you know about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life and precepts. You can learn something about him. Because of this great person, he brought a social reform in India. Within Hinduism, he brought a social reform where everybody from every class, every background could approach Krishna. It was already there, the information was there, but it didn't come to the common people until Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started to really push it. The reason why he went to South India was because he knew that there were Hindu kingdoms. If I go there and preach them, they will start doing it and others will become influenced. And then everybody will get onto bhakti. So it became very easy like that. Okay, Shishi Gauri Thai.
Jai.
Was that okay, everybody?
Haribol.